Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the insights that matter and, well, we give you the actionable knowledge you need to lead. Today, we're tearing into one of the most comprehensive organizational strategy reports of the year. It's pulling insights from CHRO summits, over 150 global case studies, you name it. And we are not talking theory today. This is all about the measurable shift that's happening right now.
It really is an essential piece of research. And if you zoom out a bit, the biggest takeaway is it's pretty simple. We have no shortage of information about the future of work. The sources all confirm it. We know AI is coming. We know the skills landscape is shifting.
We know our organizational models are totally outdated.
Exactly. We know all of this.
And that's the central conflict, isn't it? The report just hits you with it right away. This one observation. We have no shortage of insights. What we lack is the courage to act on them. That gap between knowing and doing, that's the mountain organizations have to climb before 2026.
And it's an incredibly tough environment to do it in. I mean, we aren't just facing disruption anymore. We're facing what the sources are calling a polycrisis.
A polycrisis.
Think of it as everything hitting at once. You've got AI acceleration, major demographic shifts, and these wildly shifting employee expectations around flexibility, purpose. You just can't solve these problems one by one anymore. They're all interconnected.
So our mission today is to cut through that complexity. We're going to define the operational imperatives, the measurable steps that separate the organizations that are flourishing from those that are risking irrelevance.
And we're going to focus on three critical areas that demand action right now. First, how organizations are successfully bringing in AI augmentation in HR. Second, that radical shift to skills-based organizing. And third, moving past, the superficial perks to actually embrace systemic well-being.
And every point is backed by hard numbers.
Every single one. On retention, on competitive business performance, this is all about delivering measurable value.
Okay, so let's start right there with this crisis of execution. It's the premise for everything else. We know the trends are real, but just how big is this implementation gap right now? Is this failure to act? Is it a systemic problem?
Oh, it absolutely is. The data shows this massive chasm between what companies say they'll do and what they actually do. The sources, they all cite these uneven responses. Everyone knows the trends, but the execution is just stalling out, often because of inertia.
Okay, give us some concrete evidence, something that really nails down this inertia.
Let's look at AI first. The sources cite some Gartner research showing that 76% of HR leaders consider AI a strategic priority.
76%. Okay, so almost every leader knows it's important.
I know it's coming. That's huge awareness.
So what percentage is actually embedding it?
Well, that's the kicker. Only 23% have implemented AI solutions beyond the pilot or, the experimental stage.
Right, only 23%.
Yes. Think about that. It's a 3-to-1 ratio of knowing versus doing. You have leaders saying a technology is essential, but fewer than 1 in 4 are actually embedding it into their daily operations.
That is a staggering level of organizational paralysis. And I'm guessing it's not just tech, right? You mentioned well-being.
Correct. Look at employee well-being. It has these huge retention implications. The source material notes that 89% of organizations claim they prioritize it.
That's nearly unanimous. That's lip service, though, right? Where does the measurement break down?
It breaks down completely. Fewer than 30% integrate well-being metrics into their leadership scorecards or into performance reviews, compensation.
So if you're not measuring it, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. If you don't integrate something critical into your management metrics, you're signaling to the whole organization that, despite what you say, you're not serious about it. It just stays a superficial perk, not a strategic imperative.
So if everyone knows they should be closing these gaps, what's the core barrier? Is it just that it's too expensive?
It's deeper than expense. And this is where the sources get really specific. They point to 3 interlocking issues. First, a lack of foundational capabilities. So poor data infrastructure, not enough analytical talent, and just not having the technical know-how to execute these strategies.
Okay, so a capability gap. Makes sense.
Exactly. And second, you have organizational inertia, that resistance from entrenched power structures, legacy systems, that classic line, but we've always done it this way. That becomes an active barrier to any kind of transformation.
What's the third issue?
It's the mindset of the HR function itself. Many HR departments are still operating with a service delivery mindset.
Processing requests, handling paperwork.
Focusing on compliance. They're administrators. They haven't made that shift to a value creation orientation where they become strategic architects designing the future workforce.
So if HR is stuck in administration, how can they possibly lead a foundational change like AI adoption?
Feels like a chicken and egg problem. It requires a leadership mandate. And that brings us right back to the core concept from the report: operational courage. This is the single required characteristic for success: a willingness to challenge those norms, dismantle legacy assumptions, and invest real capital, both financial and political, to make fundamental changes.
And the stakes for those who choose to act are enormous.
They are. The promise from the research is superior talent retention, securing a real competitive advantage, and building massive stakeholder trust for the ones who show this courage.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's look at where that courage is being demonstrated successfully, starting with the biggest one.
Here.
Overhauling the talent engine using AI. We've all heard the fear-mongering about full automation, but what do the sources say about AI's strategic role in HR?
The sources are crystal clear on this. The strategic approach is augmentation over automation.
Augmentation. So a co-pilot.
Exactly. AI as HR's co-pilot, not a replacement. AI is fantastic at well-defined, data-rich processes where speed and consistency are key. Think intelligent screening or predictive retention modeling. Even just administrative automation, like handling basic policy questions.
So AI handles the heavy lifting on data and speed, and the human remains crucial for all the nuanced parts.
Precisely. Humans keep responsibility for context, for ethical reasoning, and most importantly, for empathetic response, for complex communication. That clear division of labor, it optimizes both efficiency and quality.
And the measurable results of this are pretty eye-opening. Organizations that do this right report a 30 to 40% reduction in time to hire,
Almost cutting the hiring process in half.
which is huge for grabbing top talent before someone else does.
And that speed doesn't come at the cost of quality. They also report big gains in workforce performance. We're talking 25% improvements in high performer retention.
25%.
And 15 to 20% increases in employee productivity. These are real balance sheet impacts.
And we have a really powerful case study from Unilever that shows exactly how this hybrid approach works.
Yes. Unilever completely redesigned their recruitment pipeline. They brought in automated screening, gamified assessments, video analysis. But, and this is the key part, they made sure human decision-making was preserved at those critical final moments where judgment matters most.
And what was the immediate return on that?
They reduced their time to hire by a remarkable 75%.
75%. That is incredible. And what about the demographic element? Did it help remove some of the biases in recruitment?
It did, because those early screening stages were structured around cognitive ability and capability, not just looking at a CV. The hybrid approach increased the demographic diversity of new hires by 16%.
All while improving quality metrics.
Yes. It's a perfect example of technology solving both an efficiency and an equity challenge at the same time.
That kind of speed and scale just immediately highlights how rigid traditional job descriptions are. If AI is speeding things up, organizations have to be way more flexible, which takes us right to the next big operational imperative: the shift from static jobs to dynamic skills.
Absolutely. AI acceleration makes skills-based organizations, or SBOs, not just a nice-to-have, but essential for survival. The traditional job description is just too rigid. It can't keep pace. If you rely on fixed roles, you create bottlenecks and you waste the talent you already have inside the company.
And just to clarify for everyone listening, when we talk about SBOs, we're talking about moving beyond a static job title and looking at, well, what can someone actually do today, regardless of their title?
Exactly. It's about granular capabilities. And this shift means rethinking everything. How you hire, how you train, how you manage careers, all based on those capability profiles. And the data on this shift is, well, it's undeniable.
So tell us, what does the data show for companies that get this right?
Companies implementing skills-based strategies, they show 20% faster internal mobility rates.
So people get where they need to be faster.
Right. Fulfilling business needs internally instead of always having to hire from the outside. And they see a 30% reduction in critical skill gaps compared to traditional models.
The Unilever example here is also a masterclass in operational courage, especially around challenging assumptions about, pedigree.
It is. They took the radical step of eliminating university degree requirements entirely for a huge percentage of their entry-level jobs.
Wow. That's a massive challenge to legacy thinking.
It is. It's saying we care more about what you can do than where you went to school.
So how do they assess candidates instead?
They pivoted entirely to assessments, using these gamified simulations and digital tests that measure things like cognitive ability, learning agility, and raw potential.
And the payoff for that courage.
It expanded their available talent pool by 50% almost overnight. improve diversity, and crucially, it enhanced the quality of their hires because they were testing for demonstrated potential, not just credentials.
This focus on capability really is the core engine of agility.
And that need for agility leads us right to the final major imperative, moving from talent mechanics to organizational philosophy, specifically systemic well-being and value creation.
Right. And this is where we have to talk about that great insight in the report on superficial perks. You see so many companies offering free yoga, mindfulness apps,
The ping pong tables.
the ping pong tables. The report calls them programmatic approaches. But they fail if the core design of the job itself is toxic. It's like offering a Band-Aid for a broken leg.
It's a perfect analogy. Systemic design is the difference between treating the symptom, which is stress, and treating the disease, which is the work structure itself. Systemic well-being means embedding human needs into your core choices. So aggressive workload management, setting clear boundaries, and critically giving managers real accountability for this.
And measuring that accountability. The report is clear that manager effectiveness has to be measured, in part, by their team's well-being outcomes.
Exactly. If a manager isn't held responsible for the health of their team, nothing will change. And when organizations get this right, the returns are massive.
Cite the numbers here. This is the impact that speaks directly to the executive suite.
Okay. The sources cite these powerful Gallup findings. Top quartile organizations for employee well-being experience 41% lower absenteeism
41%. I mean, think of the cost savings right there.
immediately. And even more compelling, lower turnover. They experience a remarkable 59% lower turnover in high turnover industries.
That is just massive talent retention secured purely through better work design.
And Microsoft is a great case study of this at scale. They implemented these well-being by design principles. They created no meeting Fridays to protect deep focus time. They used features in Outlook to intentionally limit after-hours emails. They literally changed the rules of the road.
That takes real managerial courage to enforce, especially in a competitive tech environment. What were the results?
They achieved a 54% reduction in after-hours work time and a 30% decrease in self-reported stress. It proves that changing the operating system of work, not just offering a meditation app, delivers measurable, systemic psychological improvement.
So we've covered AI, skills, and well-being. Let's bring this full circle. What does all of this mean for profitability? Because there's that persistent myth that focusing on people and planet stakeholder capitalism will inevitably hurt the bottom line.
And this is where the financial data in the source material is just. It's decisive. The sources looked at S&P 500 firms and their stakeholder performance metrics, things like worker treatment, community investment, environmental impact.
And did prioritizing those things pay off for shareholders?
It did. The firms scoring highest on stakeholder performance delivered 6.5% higher annual returns to shareholders compared to the lowest scoring peers over a 5-year period.
That's not a compromise.
It proves that prioritizing worker treatment and broader social contribution doesn't compromise shareholder value. In fact, it actively enhances it.
That really wraps up the 3 urgent operational imperatives then. Integrating AI, adopting skills-based structures, and committing to systemic well-being, all validated by superior financial benefit.
And when you synthesize all this, the themes are so clear. It's about integrating technology with humanity. It's a fundamental shift from controlling the workforce, the legacy model, to enabling distributed leadership.
And the ultimate requirement for 2026, as the report stresses over and over, is just that courage to challenge legacy power structures. HR has to evolve from policy enforcer to strategic architect.
Exactly. And success hinges on sustained transformation, not just launching a few pilots. We've seen the data. These changes secure better talent retention. Employees and SPOs report 20% higher job satisfaction. This isn't a culture shift disguised as a business imperative. It is the business imperative.
This deep dive has really shown the urgency and the measurable impact of shifting from insight to action. On AI, on skills, on well-being, the data is clear, the case studies are compelling, and the financial returns absolutely reward that operational courage.
You know, the future of work isn't something that just passively happens to organizations. I think the most critical insight from all this is that the future is something organizations actively create every single day. Through these small choices about work design, manager accountability, technology. So the critical question for you, the listener, it isn't whether these trends are real. It's whether your organization will choose to lead or follow in bringing them to life through those daily design choices.
A powerful thought to end on. Thanks for guiding us through this essential report.
Always a pleasure.